Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever walked into a room and felt like everyone else had it figured out except you? The truth is, confidence isn't something people are born with. It's something we practice every single day. And personality, that's not about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being the most genuine version of yourself. Today, I'm giving you 5 daily tips that take less than 5 minutes but can completely change the way people see you and, more importantly, how you see yourself. You know, one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to build confidence is they shoot too high too fast. They think if I can just land that job, if I can just crush that presentation, if I can just look a certain way, then I'll finally feel confident. But confidence doesn't work like that. It doesn't come in one big moment. It comes from the small wins that stack up over time. Think about it like this. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to be. And the good news is those promises don't have to be huge. They can be tiny. In fact, the smaller the better, because the smaller they are, the harder they are to argue with. Here's what I mean. If I tell myself tomorrow morning, I'm going to run 5 miles before work, my brain immediately starts bargaining 5 miles. Do we really have time for that? What if it rains? What if I'm too tired? Let's just push it to next week. And now I've set myself up to fail before I even start. But if I tell myself, hey, before I touch my phone in the morning, I'm going to drink 1 glass of water, there's no real debate. It's simple. One person health created. AI-powered meals and activity tracker. Track meals and activities with voice photos. AI analyzes your data. Get personalized recommendations that actually work. Try for free. Sponsor. It's doable. And when I do it, I start the day with 1 win already in the bag. And here's where it gets interesting. Your brain doesn't care how big or small the win is. A kept promise is a kept promise. It sends the same signal. I said, I do it and I did it. That's where confidence actually grows. Not from pretending to be somebody you're not, but from proving to yourself in small ways that you can be trusted. Now, let me give you an example. You've probably lived through, ever had one of those days where everything just feels like it's spinning out of control. You're running late, you're stressed, nothing seems to go right, but then you stop for 1 second. Maybe you tidy your desk or you make your bed when you get home and suddenly things don't feel as overwhelming. That's not a coincidence. That's the power of small wins. They ground you. They remind you that you're not powerless. You can influence your environment, your day, your mood. And when you repeat those little actions consistently, they start to shape the way you see yourself. Because let's be honest, confidence isn't about how other people see you. It's about how you see you. If you see yourself as someone who always says they'll do something and then doesn't follow through, confidence is going to be hard to find. But if you see yourself as someone who, even in the smallest ways, keeps promises to yourself, you carry that energy into everything else you do. You walk into a room differently. You speak differently. You handle challenges differently. Now, let me address the pushback some of you might be thinking right now. Okay? But drinking a glass of water or making my bed isn't going to change my life. And you're right. It won't. Not by itself. But it's not about the water. It's not about the bed. It's about the signal you're sending to yourself. I'm someone who does what I say I'll do. That signal compounds. It builds momentum. And when you stack enough of those little promises, suddenly the bigger challenges don't feel so impossible. Here's the kicker. Your brain remembers evidence. Every time you keep a promise, no matter how small, you're giving your brain evidence that says, see, we can handle this. And when a bigger challenge shows up, you don't go into it empty-handed. You walk in with a library of evidence that says, I've done this before. I can do this again. That's confidence. It's not pretending. It's not faking. It's earned. So here's my challenge to you. Don't overthink it. Don't try to overhaul your entire life in one day. Pick one ridiculously small promise you can keep to yourself tomorrow morning. Maybe it's drinking that glass of water. Maybe it's standing up straight the moment you walk into work. Maybe it's writing down one thing you're grateful for before bed. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's small and you do it. And when you do it again the next day and the next, you're going to notice something not in how the world sees you, though that will come, but in how you see yourself. And that right there is where real confidence begins. Because small wins aren't small. They're the foundation. And without them, the big wins never stick. One of the fastest ways people decide whether or not they believe you, whether or not they respect you, is before you even say a single word. It's in the way you carry yourself. And the truth is, most of us don't even realize how much our body language and tone are shaping the impression we leave behind. We've probably had this happen before. You walk into a room and instantly notice someone who seems sure of themselves. They're not necessarily the loudest person. They're not even saying much yet. But the way they stand, the way they hold themselves, it communicates something. It tells you they belong there. Now think of the opposite. Someone comes in, hunched over, looking at the ground, speaking so quickly you can barely catch what they're saying. Nothing about that feels confident, right? And here's the kicker. They might be incredibly smart, incredibly talented, but the way they carry themselves is sending a completely different message. So here's the shift I want you to practice. Stand tall. It's to be slow. That's it. I'm not telling you to become somebody else. I'm not telling you to fake it or puff out your chest like you're trying to prove something. I'm saying give your body and your voice the chance to support you instead of work against you. When you stand tall, shoulders back, chin up, not stiff, but relaxed, you're sending a signal both to others and to yourself. To others, it says, I respect myself enough to take up space. To yourself, it says, I'm steady, I'm grounded, I can handle this. And if you've ever wondered why confident people seem calm, it's because posture literally changes the way your brain reacts. It slows you down. It helps your nervous system settle instead of spiral. Now let's talk about your voice. If there's one thing that makes people look insecure, it's rushing through their words. And I get it. You want to get your point across before someone cuts you off. Or maybe you're nervous and your mouth is just trying to keep up with your brain. But here's the problem. When you speak fast, people don't hear confidence. They hear anxiety. They hear someone who's not sure they deserve the space they're taking up. So, slow down. Take pauses. Let your words land. Think about how much weight a judge's gavel carries when it hits once. It doesn't have to keep banging to prove authority. Same with your words. If you give them space, they carry more weight. And here's the beautiful part. When you slow down, people lean in. They pay attention because you're not just talking, you're communicating with purpose. Now I want to clear something up because some of you might be thinking, well, I'm just not naturally confident. That's not my personality. And I hear you, but confidence is not a personality trait. It's a posture and a practice. You don't have to change who you are. You just need to align your body and your voice with the message you want to send. Think of it like tuning an instrument. You don't need a new guitar. You just need to get the one you have in tune. Let me give you a practical exercise. Next time you're in a conversation, instead of jumping in the moment you're ready to respond, wait one extra beat. Just pause. You'll notice two things. First, you'll actually feel calmer because you're not reacting. You're choosing. Then second, the person you're talking to will respect your words more because you're showing them you don't feel rushed. That 1 second of stillness communicates more confidence than any perfectly rehearsed line ever could. Here's another one. When you walk into a room, resist the urge to shrink. Don't immediately reach for your phone. Don't fold your arms across your chest. Take a breath, lift your eyes, and stand like you belong, because you do. And if that feels uncomfortable at first, that's okay. Growth always feels uncomfortable. But over time, your body will start teaching your brain a new story. This is who we are. We're steady. We belong here. Confidence isn't about being the loudest or of the boldest. It's about being present, and being present requires posture and pace. You can say the exact same words two different ways: rushed, slouched, scattered, or slow, grounded, steady. And I promise you people will hear them differently. So if you remember nothing else from this, remember this. Stand tall, speak slow. Let your body and your voice work for you instead of against you. Because when they do, you won't just look more confident. You'll start to feel it. If you want to instantly make your personality more magnetic, here's the simplest, most overlooked skill you can practice. Listen more than you talk. And I don't mean sit there quietly while you wait for your turn to speak. I mean really listen. Because let's be honest, most people aren't actually listening. They're just reloading. They're waiting for a pause so they can jump back in with their own story, their own thought, their own opinion. But here's the thing. You don't become memorable because of how much you say. You become memorable because of how you make people feel. And nothing makes someone feel more valued than realizing you actually heard them. Think about the last time someone really listened to you. No phone in their hand, no distracted glances around the room, just present with you. You walked away thinking, wow, I like that person. I don't even know why, but I do. That's the power of listening. It's not flashy, but it's magnetic. Now, I get it. We live in a world where it feels like to be interesting, you've got to have the best story, the funniest line, the strongest opinion. But the truth, the most interesting people are the ones who are interested. When you give someone your attention, you're telling them without words, you matter. What you're saying matters. And that is rare. Here's what usually happens. When you start practicing this, you'll notice people light up more around you. They'll open up. They'll share more because they feel safe to do so. And the best part is you don't have to force anything. You don't have to perform. All you have to do is give them something that costs you nothing but means everything to them, your attention. Now, let's get practical. The next time you're in a conversation, catch yourself when you feel that urge to jump in. You know, the moment they're talking and you're already forming your response in your head. Instead, stop, breathe, stay with them. Listen all the way through, and when they finish, don't immediately shift the focus back to you. Ask a follow-up question. Something simple like, what happened after that? Or how did that make you feel? That little shift does two things. It shows you were actually listening, and it invites them to keep going. And here's the kicker. When they leave that conversation, they're not thinking, wow, you asked good questions. They're thinking, wow, I really like talking to them. Listening also builds trust. Think about the people in your life you trust the most. Chances are they're not the ones who dominate every conversation. They're the ones who actually hear you, who make you feel like your words land somewhere. And in a world where everyone's competing to be heard, the person who chooses to listen always stands out. Now, some of you might be thinking, but if I don't talk as much, won't people think I'm boring? No, they'll think you're intentional. They'll think you're thoughtful, because when you do speak, it'll actually mean something. You'll have given yourself the chance to hear, to process, to respond instead of react. And people respect that. There's another bonus to this too. When you practice listening more, you learn more. You notice things you would have missed if you were filling the silence with your own voice. You pick up on details, patterns, emotions, and that not only makes you a better communicator, it makes you a better friend, partner, leader, because you're tuned in. So let's put it all together. Confidence is not about dominating every room you walk into. It's not about proving you have the sharpest comment or the funniest line. Real confidence is quiet enough to make space for others. It's steady enough to let someone else shine. And when you consistently do that, you build relationships that last because people remember how you made them feel. So if you want to improve your personality and your confidence at the same time, practice this simple shift. Listen more than you talk, because in the end, people won't always remember what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. One of the biggest misconceptions about confidence is that it shows up in giant dramatic moments. The big presentation, the big decision, the big leap. But in reality, confidence is built in the tiny everyday acts of courage we practice when nobody's watching. I call it micro courage. The small risks you take daily that on the surface might not look like much, but underneath are reshaping the way you see yourself. Think about it. Confidence isn't built by avoiding discomfort. It's built by stepping into it just a little bit at a time. When you do something that scares you, even something small, you're teaching your brain, see, that wasn't so bad. We survived. We can do this. And that lesson adds up. Take something as simple as saying hello to a stranger. Most people avoid it. They keep their head down, eyes on the phone, pretending they're busy. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. What if the person doesn't respond? What if it feels awkward? But here's the truth. The outcome doesn't matter. What matters is that you acted. You stepped past that little wall of fear. And every time you do that, you're stacking another brick in the foundation of your confidence. Or let's say you're in a meeting and you have a question, but you hesitate. You don't want to look dumb. You don't want to slow things down, so you stay quiet. In that moment, you rob yourself of micro courage. But if you speak up, even if your voice shakes a little, you're training yourself to take risks. You're telling yourself, my voice matters, my curiosity matters, and that lesson builds a confidence no one can take from you. The beauty of micro courage is that it doesn't require you to change everything at once. You don't have to suddenly become the boldest person in the room. You just have to lean into small everyday opportunities to be a little braver than you were yesterday. Here's something I tell people. Stop waiting to feel confident before you act. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. If you sit around waiting for the nerves to disappear, you'll be waiting forever. The nerves don't go away. What changes is your relationship with them. You stop seeing them as a stop sign and start seeing them as a green light. Okay, I feel nervous. That means this matters. Let's go. And here's what's interesting. The more you practice micro courage, the less scary the big moments feel, because by then you've built up a history of little wins. You've proven to yourself again and again that you can handle discomfort. So when the bigger challenge comes, you're not walking into it empty. You're walking into it with evidence. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. Your brain is wired to keep you safe. It loves comfort zones. It will whisper all kinds of excuses to keep you from taking even the smallest risk. Don't say anything. You'll embarrass yourself. Don't introduce yourself. They won't care. Don't try that new thing. You'll probably fail. But the truth is, those aren't warnings. They're invitations. Invitations to practice courage. And the only way to answer them is by doing the thing anyway. So let me ask you, what's your version of micro courage? Maybe it's speaking up more at work. Maybe it's putting your phone away and actually talking to the person next to you. Maybe it's finally starting that project you've been talking about for years. Whatever it is, I promise you, it's not about the outcome. It's about who you become in the process. Because confidence isn't a gift someone hands you. It's not a personality type you either have or you don't. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows through consistent use. Every rep counts. Every small act of courage is another rep. And if you keep showing up, keep practicing, that muscle gets stronger. So if you want to build unshakable confidence, stop waiting for the big moment. Start small. Say the thing. Ask the question. Take the step. Because when you practice micro courage daily, you don't just change how the world sees you. You change how you see yourself. One of the biggest traps people fall into when trying to improve themselves is this idea that they have to get it perfect right away. They think, if I don't completely transform my habits overnight, if I don't see massive results fast, then I'm failing. And because they can't meet that impossible standard, they quit. But confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from progress. From noticing those small daily steps forward and giving yourself credit for them. The truth is, every single person in this room is already making progress in ways they probably don't even recognize. You might think, well, I didn't crush a workout today, so I failed. But did you get up earlier than you used to? Did you walk a little more than yesterday? Did you choose water instead of soda once? That's progress. Did you stop yourself from snapping at someone even though you were frustrated? That's progress. It might feel invisible in the moment, but stacked over time, those tiny changes add up to something powerful. Here's the problem. We're wired to overlook it. Our brains focus on what's missing instead of what's working. You could take 9 steps forward and 1 step back. And what do you focus on? The 1 step back. That's why celebrating small wins matters so much. It's not about inflating your ego. It's about training your brain to recognize evidence of growth instead of dismissing it. Because what you focus on, you repeat. Think about learning any skill, playing an instrument, lifting weights, speaking a new language. You don't go from 0 to mastery in a week. You don't pick up a guitar today and headline a concert tomorrow. You build skill 1 rep, 1 chord, 1 word at a time. And what keeps you going isn't just discipline. It's recognizing the progress along the way. It's noticing, hey, I couldn't play this note last week, and now I can. Or I couldn't lift that weight a month ago, and now it's easy. That awareness of growth fuels motivation, and motivation fuels consistency. Confidence works the same way. You build it 1 step at a time. And if you ignore those steps, you'll convince yourself you're not moving at all. That's why it's so important to pause and celebrate progress daily. Not once a year, not when you hit the big milestone, but every day. Let me give you something practical. At the end of your day, instead of replaying what went wrong, ask yourself one simple question. Where did I win today? Don't overcomplicate it. It could be as small as I spoke up once in that meeting, or I got out of bed when I wanted to hit snooze. Write it down, or just say it out loud. That one question shifts your focus from scarcity to growth. And if you keep practicing that, you'll start to notice more wins automatically because your brain's been trained to look for them. And here's the beautiful part. Celebrating progress doesn't just build confidence, it builds resilience. Because when you hit setbacks, and you will, you won't see them as proof that you're failing. You'll see them in the context of a much bigger story. Yeah, today was rough, but look how far I've already come. That perspective makes it a lot harder to give up on yourself. Now, some people hear this and think, well, if I celebrate small wins, aren't I just settling? Absolutely not. Settling is when you stop trying. Celebrating is when you recognize that your effort matters. It's the difference between being grateful for where you are and still hungry for where you're going. Those two things can exist together. In fact, they have to, because if you never appreciate the steps, you'll never enjoy the destination. So let's bring this back to confidence in personality. When you're someone who notices progress, it changes how you carry yourself. You stop chasing perfection, which makes you less anxious. You stop beating yourself up, which makes you easier to be around. You walk into rooms with a quiet steadiness because you're not trying to prove you've arrived. You're just showing up as someone who's moving forward, and that energy is magnetic. The truth is, people don't connect with perfect. They connect with real. They connect with progress. And when you start seeing yourself as a work in progress worth celebrating, other people start to see it too. So if you want to improve your personality and confidence every single day, stop measuring success by how far you have left to go. Start noticing how far you've already come, because the most powerful version of you isn't built in giant leaps. It's built in those daily 1% wins that you choose to celebrate. So here's the bigger picture. Confidence isn't about waiting for the perfect moment or trying to be somebody you're not. It's built in the small wins you give yourself every day. It shows up in the way you stand tall and slow down your words so they carry weight. It grows when you choose to listen more than you talk, making people feel seen instead of overlooked. It strengthens when you practice micro-courage, taking those small daily risks that prove to yourself you can handle more than you thought. And it lasts when you learn to celebrate progress, not perfection, because real growth happens one step at a time. You don't need to wait for the future version of yourself to finally feel confident. You can start today with what you already have, where you already are. And if you do little by little, you'll realize something powerful. You don't have to chase confidence. You can create it. Because the truth is, the most attractive, confident personality isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the truest in the room. And that's something every single one of us has the ability to practice starting